Hey guys, I'm Marissa and welcome back to my channel. Here on my channel we talk about life and money and especially budgeting. I am a huge budget nerd and today I'm showing you a mock budget for an annual income of $60,000. But before we get into it, I wanted to let you guys know that if you want to get the budget template that I will be using today, I have a more extensive version that I use for my personal household budget and I also have for sale on my shop, so I will have a link to that in the description box down below so you can check it out if you're interested. Also, I share my personal household budget here on YouTube, so I will leave a link to that playlist in the description box down below and also in the card above so you can see how my husband and I allocate our personal budget. And also, don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you're not yet subscribed. I'm doing a whole budgeting series at different income levels, so you'll definitely want to stay tuned for that. Okay, so a budget for a $60,000 annual income. Today I'm going to show you a mock budget, and that's just what it is. It's just a mock budget, it's a sample, and this is how I would budget if my personal income was $60,000. So this is totally going to vary for you depending on your circumstances, your lifestyle, and also your goals. So please note that this is just totally simply a guide that you can follow if this is around your household income. Budgeting is really based on percentages, and so that's mostly what this budget is based on. And you really want to keep your allocated percentages in check because that's what's going to allow you to be able to still enjoy life and also work on accomplishing financial goals while not staying house poor or spending too much on a certain category. So this is just really percentage based, and these are just suggested percentages and suggested amounts that you could be allocating in your budget if this is near your income. Okay, so let's take a look at the budget here. The first section that we have is income. So for my personal budget, I have aligned for my husband's income and my income, and that way I'm able to track each income stream. But for the sake of this budget, we just have it all lumped together in one line item. So if you're making about $60,000 a year, your take-home pay is obviously going to be less than that because of taxes and other things that may come out of your paycheck. So just for the sake of this being an example budget, I have the monthly take-home pay be $3,750 for an annual income of $60,000. Obviously, this is going to vary depending on where you live or what your tax circumstances may be, so that could be a little bit different. But for the sake of the budget, we'll go off of $3,750, which may be around the take-home pay for an annual income of $60,000. So we use a zero-based budget, which means that all of our income equals all of our expenses. And this is really important because you want to ensure that every dollar is getting assigned in your budget, and also that you're not overspending on a category or you're not spending more money than you make, which is really important that you want to make sure you're not doing. So I have this budget broken down into expenses and savings. So the first expense that we have is giving. So again, this is just personal to me. This is how I would budget if this was my income level. But I have giving here as the first thing in our budget at $375 or 10% of take-home pay. And this is just something that's been important to me no matter what our income level has been. My husband and I have always decided to include giving in our budget, as that's just been something that's important to us. And this may be totally different for you. If that's not important to you, then you can allocate that money to go to something else. Budgets are totally customizable and can fit your necessities and your lifestyle, so definitely go for it. But again, just for me personally, this is how I would budget. I would include giving here in my budget. The next line item that we have is mortgage or rent payment, and I have this at 27% of the income, and that is $1,012.50. So it's really great to try and keep your mortgage or rent payment around 25, I would say no more than 30% of your take-home pay in your budget, and so I set this amount to be 27%. I felt like this was kind of a good amount for this income level, and also you could be able to find an apartment or something like that that could be around $1,000. Obviously, this depends on where you live. For someone who lives in a rural area, yeah, you could totally find something that is this amount for a rent or mortgage. I live in Portland, Oregon, and I know that it's really difficult to find something to rent that would be $1,000. So I totally get that. So in a lot of these circumstances, if this amount is too low for you to find the place that you should be living in, you can do a couple things. You can take on a roommate, or you can also work to increase your income. I think that it's really important that you try and stick to that 25 to 30% range for your monthly mortgage or rent payment, because you want to ensure that you're not becoming house poor. You want to make sure that you're still able to enjoy your money a little bit and also being able to accomplish financial goals. And if your mortgage or rent payment is too high, then you're not going to be able to do those things. So that may mean taking on a roommate or working to increase income. So for the sake of this budget, about $1,000 that you would spend on rent or mortgage. Next we have is utilities, and we have this at $281.25, which is 7.5% of the income. And sorts of things that would be included in utilities would be like water, garbage, sewer, electric, natural gas, if that applies, or even having your phone bill and your internet. So all those sorts of utilities can be lumped into this line. And for your personal budget, you may decide that you want to make each of those utility bills its own line item in your budget, which is what we personally do, so I can track those expenses a lot easier. The next line item that we have is insurance, and we have that at $281.25, which is also a 7.5%. And this insurance line item would be things like health insurance, car insurance, or even life insurance. So for my husband and I, our health insurance is taken out of our paychecks. So what we see as our take-home pay, the only insurance that we are paying for is car insurance and life insurance. So health insurance comes out earlier because we have it through work. The next line item that we have is groceries, and we have this at 10% of the household budget, which is $375. Honestly, super doable, especially depending on maybe how many people are in your household. My husband and I spend around $250 to $300 a month on groceries, and we are just a household of 2 people, and we eat out maybe 2 or 3 times a month. So this is just solely groceries. And so I think that $375 is actually pretty high. Maybe if you have a family and you have more children, then this would be more applicable. But if you are a single person or even a household of 2, I think that this is definitely something that you could trim down so that you can put more money towards working on financial goals or elsewhere. The next line item that we have is transportation or gas, and that is $281.25, which is 7.5%. I personally think that this is also a little bit high in comparison to what we spend. So my husband and I, we each drive our own cars to work, and we spend about $150 a month on gas. So if you have gas for your car, or maybe you need to have a bus pass, or you have some car maintenance line items, then they can go into this sort of category. You would want to spend around this amount. Again, I feel like this is maybe a little bit high, like for my husband and I specifically, and we make more money than $60,000. So you could trim down this amount so that you could put more towards your financial goals. Next, we have is fun and entertainment. So things that would go into this category would be things like eating out, or going to the movies, or going to a concert, or anything that's more enjoyable in life. And we have that at $187.50, and that is 5% of the household budget. Next we have is miscellaneous, and it's always so important to have a miscellaneous line item in your budget, because there are always going to be things that come up that you weren't necessarily expecting at the beginning of the month. So having somewhere to put it so it doesn't throw off your entire budget is so important. So things that we used to put to miscellaneous, like when we were first married, were things like household expenses, because we didn't have many of them. So it would be like toilet paper or paper towels and things like that. Or if I needed some new mascara, like we'd put it to miscellaneous. So just kind of random things that maybe I forgot to budget for, or that are so small and it would seem silly for me to make a line item for that specific category, I would just put to miscellaneous. So the total for all of our normal expenses is $2,981.25. So now moving into the savings section of the budget. So we have a savings or a debt line item. So this is kind of going to vary depending on what your financial goal is, obviously. If you're working on saving for an emergency fund or saving for retirement or something like that, then it could go here. If you're working on paying off debt, then that would take this place as well. So whatever that financial goal is, really, is what this line item is in here for your budget. And we have that at $581.25, which is 15.5% of your take-home pay. If you're working on paying off debt and your debt payments are actually more than this amount, then obviously there's going to have to be things that you trim out of your budget so that you can put more towards debt. So probably trimming out things like fun and entertainment, as well as cutting down your grocery bill, which there are so many ways that you can save on groceries, and those sorts of things, so that you can put more towards these financial goals depending on how quickly you want to pay off debt or how quickly you want to save and how much you may need for that category. You can also obviously work on increasing income so that you can bring home more money to be able to put towards these goals. The next line item that we have is personal spending money. So this is something that we have in our budget as well. For this budget, we have $187.50 going to personal spending, which is 5% of the budget. So my husband and I, again, we make more than $60,000, but we each get $100 of personal spending money right now. And this has definitely gone up over time. When we were first married, we each got $25 a month in personal spending money because our income was like half of what it is now. And we were also working on some like serious financial goals of paying off our student loans. So obviously this is another thing that you could work on trimming out of your budget if you're really serious about working on those goals. But personal spending money could be things like going to Starbucks or getting a new purse for yourself or a new shirt, or this is just kind of the money that my husband and I each get that we don't need to ask each other about spending. We can just spend it however we want. And I personally like putting this in the savings section of my budget because it allows us to be able to either spend it or save it that month, and we can save up for like bigger things that we might want. Like I bought myself a pair of AirPods last year with my personal spending money. Also, just to show you guys how this works in the budget, once you put in your actuals, it will then calculate the ending balance for that fund so that you can then see how much it carries over each month. So that's how this budget template works if you were interested in looking at more at the budget template. So if you're really serious about paying off debt or working on savings, here's what I would do to trim out some things in this budget. Groceries, I think, could be lower. I would put this at more like $300. And then transportation and gas, honestly, I think that could be lower too. I think we could put this at like $150. Fun and entertainment, this may be something you want to cut out a little bit more, so we could put that at like 2.5%. And miscellaneous is still good to have, but could honestly be a little bit lower at 2.5%. Personal spending money, we could also probably trim down to maybe like 2.5%. My husband and I, we now get $100 each, but that has been very recent. Up until I think a year ago, we still each got $50 a month. So it's definitely gone up over time. So here we can put more towards our savings and debt. As you can see, this number down here at the difference, that's how much we have left to spend. So we could now put over $1,000 toward that financial goal, which is 28.5%. So there are definitely things that you can trim out of your budget to be able to work on those financial goals if you are really serious about doing so. So that is this budget for an annual household income of $60,000. Don't forget, if you're wanting to check out this budget template, you can find that in the description box down below. I'll have a link to my shop. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more budgeting videos. I'm doing a whole budgeting series here on YouTube of budgeting at different income levels, so definitely stay tuned for that. And I will look forward to seeing you guys in my next video. Bye.
Did you ever stop and think